Hi, Armoured Pants here, and I have another video for you on the Russian line. This is the Tier 5 heavy tank, the KV-1, and we have a complete guide for you. Before we get into that though, because this is a heavy tank and you may not have played one before, let's look at side scraping and angling in some detail. So, what we're going to do is look at some angling mechanics. Let's take this is a plate of armour, let's say it's 90mm thick. Now, what we are going to do is look at what happens when a shell is fired with that. A shell is 120mm of pen. 120 is greater than 90, so it goes straight through. So when the armour plate is flat on to the shell being fired at it, it's 90mm is not thick enough to withstand 120mm of pen. The shell goes straight through. Pretty simple, right? Now, what happens if we angle that armour plate? So now we have angled the armour plate. It's about at a 45-degree angle, as you can see. Now, when we fire at it, 120mm pen shell actually bounces. Why? Because the relative thickness of the armour is now more than 90mm at the angle that the shell hits it at. If you do not believe that, have a look here. This is the original outline of the armour plate, the 90mm. Look how much thicker the armour is than its original 90mm because of the angle, and that's why the shell bounces. Now, what happens if you, though, are front onto something? As you can see, an experienced player will fire through the front and it will go through. Now, that's why we side scrape. So, an inexperienced player will pull out from behind cover, just like this house, side on, and he gets penned, as in the first example. However, an experienced player who side scrapes will pull up to the object, the house, or whatever the cover is, like this. Now, even though he can be seen, the back of the tank can be seen, when the shell is fired, it bounces because look how thick the armour is at the point of impact of the shell, and that's the original 90mm. Much thicker, right? So the shell bounces. When you side scrape then, when you want to come out to shoot, you come out at this angle, putting the turret out at the fire, and you're still creating an acute angle that bounces the shell. The armour is significantly more thicker still, even though not quite as thick as when you're flat on. And that is basic mechanics of how to side scrape. Now look at over angling. So sometimes you're trying to side scrape but you get penned. Why is that? Because you over angle. Let's take our 90mm again plate. Let's take this arrow representing 120mm of pen, so it goes straight through. And again, let's use our outline so we can determine the plate thickness when we look at angles. So, firstly, we angle up. We can see when the shell hits at that angle, it will not go through because the armour is now thicker, plus it is considerably thicker than the 120mm of the pen. That's how to make a 90mm plate much thicker. Now, if you over angle like this, you are making the armour thicker but not thick enough, and the 120mm of pen still goes through. This is not how to angle. You are basically over angling there. You are still making the armour thicker. As you can see, when we look at the outline of the original armour plate, it is thicker than the 90mm, but it is not 120mm thick, and therefore the shell goes through, and that is over angling. So let's have a look at the tech spec of this tank. So this tank, you had the A20 before, which is a light tank. So that's why this may be the first heavy tank that you are going to play, and this is simply a brilliant heavy tank. It's excellent and is very much an archetypical heavy tank, and you can play this and practice and get very good with heavies using this. It has a massive gun, 85mm gun. We are going to use gun rammer to get that reload down to just over 8 seconds. We are going to use supercharge to get the muzzle velocity up, and we're going to use refined gun. We're going to use enhanced armour, improved control, toolbox, to make sure that we get the optimum performance out of this tank. The tank has fantastic armour, so therefore we use enhanced armour to make sure that we get the extra thickness and the extra bounces. And the gun aiming time is not so bad, it's not great. Dispersion is good. The gun handling on the KV-1 is actually pretty good for a Russian gun. Forward speed is 34 kilometers an hour, which is not so bad, but it is a slow accelerator. It is a cumbersome tank, it is not agile. You have massive pen on the AP, but when you go up to AP or APCR, it's even better. And on the HE, you've got 43 millimeters of penetration. So bear in mind that that will go through many light tanks and many medium tanks, especially from the back and from behind. So load up on HE, carry some APCR rounds, but AP will go through almost everything that you come up against. You can see here in terms of its traverse speed and its agility on different terrains, it is pretty cumbersome, so just be aware of that. However, it has awesome armor. It is a beast. It is a beast in tier 5. Now, let's have a look at the armor profile here. If you're going down a hill, you're vulnerable, as you can see, but front on you are going to be difficult to pen, and really it has only 2 vulnerable points. It's the very lower plate and that point underneath the turret just at the top of the hull. They're really the only 2 parts it's vulnerable in the front. At the back it's also vulnerable, but as you can see, if you angle around you can make some good angles and actually bounce some shots. Now if we look at the tank side on, let's look at the external modules, the tracks. The tracks are exposed and therefore can be hit, so therefore I would use 2 repair kits when I'm loading up this tank. And it is also prone to fire, be aware of this. At the back here, if it's hit, KV-1s are notorious for going on fire. Also if they're hit here in the front wheel, the drive wheel here, it also can damage crew members. And at the back, if they're penned from the back, particularly with an APCR round, they tend to go on fire. So you need to protect your very back and sides of the tank if you don't. And also you need to make sure that you have a spare, you have a repair kit that has a fire extinguisher in it. Otherwise you are going to lose a lot of hit points because you will go on fire. They are very prone to that, as are many Russian tanks. The T-34 is another tank which is extremely prone to going on fire. Now, tactics. If you're in tier 5 battle, you can go front line in this, you can get into brawls, you can do long range sniping, particularly with refined gun and gun rammer. So it lends itself to a lot of different tactics. If you're up tiered, well, this tank still holds its own if it's up tiered. You will still bounce shots from tanks in tier 6. And it will hold its own, and its rate of fire allows it to do hit point trading, for example with KV-1s, etc. Now it is a side scraping monster. It's perfect to practice this skill in. Just look at the angles that we're creating here when we side scrape here. Look at the thickness of the armor. Look how red it goes, how thick, and how high the numbers go. So please, if you haven't tried to side scrape before, look again at just a short tutorial at the start of this video. Look through it again, pause it, take some notes, and then practice with this KV-1. It is a brilliant tank for practicing side scraping, and you will not be disappointed. Just bear in mind that you can over angle in it, so just take note of the over angling mechanics as well. But this tank is the tank to practice your side scraping and your angling in. Once you have it perfected, then this skill set can be transferred to any heavy tank that you play in the future. So it's not just about learning to play the KV-1, but any heavy tank. Now, in this game here, I get a mastery badge, and I really do it because I kind of push on. I take the fight to the enemy. I decide to push the top here. I'm confident in the tank's armor. I'm just showing my turret here so I know I can pop out, and even if somebody shoots at me, the chances of them penning my turret are very, very slim. Then we have 3 of the enemy, 5 now spotted up. So the light tanks that went out in front have spotted up the enemy. So the A20 and the Leopard did a good job spotting up the enemy for us, and that really is their job. If you are driving a light tank, that is your job. It's to spot the enemy. Otherwise you leave your teammates blind. So now I'm just waiting for an opportunity here. I don't want to push up too far because I don't want to expose the sides or the back of the tank. So I'm just waiting to see what the enemy are going to do. As you can see there, it just bounced a shot, bounced a big round there. Now I'm going to try to put a round into him. He's coming towards me. Easy pen for me because I have a very big gun that does quite a lot of damage. You saw the alpha roll there was big. Now, again, I've said in other videos about being patient. If you are patient, generally the enemy will make mistakes because they become impatient. And you saw that's what that Matilda did there. He's trying to get shots on, he's getting frustrated, and he rolls up and he gets smashed for his trouble and lost 70% of his hit points. Now again, the M4, again he's getting frustrated. He's had a few bounces from me. He can't get a clean shot on me, and he's moving to try to get those shots. And when he does that, he exposes himself and allows me to pen him. So as you can see, I haven't done much in this game, right? I have moved up to a position where I can be seen by the enemy. I'm tempting them. So to use an old expression from the 1930s, I'm showing them a bit of ankle or a little bit of leg, and I'm enticing them in. But I haven't really done much else, right? Now, I've let them make mistakes. I've been very patient. I've used the armour of my tank to bounce their shots, to cause them to get really frustrated, and then to make silly decisions like the M4 and Matilda did. Now the Panzer IV-D is coming up here. He's going to get smashed by the massive round, 200 damage into him, which is 40% of his total hit points. The second one, smash, he's gone. Now we have the Su-85B. He's going to try to make a run for it, but there is no escape. That 8-second reload nails him. Now I'm going to push up here on the KV-1 to clear him. I'm going to take a round from the Stug. I kind of know that, but I have conserved my hit points. I haven't lost any hit points up till now. So then I can put a round into the KV-1. It bounces. I switch up to APCR. Then back, because I know if he's backed up here, so I switch back to AP so I can put a nice round into him, get the maximum roll. And now I switch back to APCR. Why? Because it's a short range shot and I don't want any to really risk the bounce, so I just pop that into him. And now it's just me and the Stug. But we are now 5 tanks to 1, so the game is over. My allies come now to help me, and they damage the Stug, and then I get the last kill. So 6 kills for the KV. Way over 2k of damage, and pretty good game all around. As you can see, 2.2k of damage, mastery badge. But also I got the mastery badge not just for the damage I did, even though it's a bit of a carry for me, but also because of all of the shots that I bounced and getting extra XP for extra experience for all those shots that I bounced. And the KV-1 is a tank that will bounce shots, particularly if you play it well and play to its strengths as I did there. Exposing only my turret, moving backwards and forwards, making it difficult for the enemy to get a shot on, frustrating them, drawing them out, and then using that big gun to pulverize them, which I did to great effect there. So that is the KV-1 in a nutshell. That is how to play it. And let's have a quick recap on this wonderful heavy tank in Tier 5. So it is a classic heavy tank. It displays all the key characteristics of that vehicle type. Big gun, great armour, not so fast moving, not so agile. It is slow, heavily armoured main battle tank, for want of a better description, and it really is a monster on the battlefield. And if you push up, putting only your front face forward and angle, you will bounce shots all day long. It is a side scraping and angling monster, and is the perfect training vehicle for the tutorial and learning how to side scrape, as we discussed earlier on in the video. It's big gun, and unlike a lot of Russian guns, it has very decent handling. And it gives you big alpha rolls. You're going to be putting in anything from 160 to over 200, and has great penetration. So remember to load up HE rounds. I didn't get an opportunity in that game to fire into the back of anything, but if you do, you fire up a HE round, it will pen because it has 43mm of pen. It has a great reload. 8.1 second with the gun rammer is brilliant for such a big gun, because it does so much damage. And use supercharged and refined gun, because you will at some point in some games have to engage in long range battles, and you want your shells to pen from distance, so supercharged and refined gun will make that happen. If you haven't already done so, please watch the heavy tank guide which is on this channel. It gives you all the essentials of playing a heavy tank. If you've just arrived at the KV-1, you will not have played a heavy tank before, so please watch that and get all the pointers. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Cheers Mush, take care, and see you on the other side.